One of my coworkers told me that they were talking to some students in the hallway, and the students asked the other teacher if I'm a boy or a girl. And the teacher was like, does it matter? You know, she's cool. And they were like, no, I just can't figure it out. It's just so hard, I can't figure it out. I was just like, that's the goal.
Wow. Minnesota teacher bragging about how she intentionally confuses her students on gender. They're not shy about admitting their agenda, are they? The left-wing cult-like dedication to denying science and grooming our children on full display in many precincts in these United States. So let's bring in political commentator, Washington Examiner, and New York Post columnist and host of Off Limits with Ian Haworth, Mr. Haworth himself. Hey, Ian, glad to have you here, man. You wrote an op-ed for the New York Post titled How Trans Activism Became the New Religion of the Left. It does have all those hallmarks of a non-God-centered religion, doesn't it? Complete with child sacrifice. True?
I mean, absolutely. If you look at every single element of the transgender movement, the radical transgender movement, it hits religion every single time. You've got Joe Biden when he's discussing legislation in Florida which aims to protect children, not adults, children, from hormone treatments, surgical mutilation. He's talking about that as sinful. So we're literally talking about sacrificing children to this ideology. You've got Drew Barrymore throwing herself to her knees in front of Dylan Mulvaney, a TikTok activist. And so it's just really quite absurd. We've gone from identity politics, breeding the idea that identity is all that's important, to the idea that transgenderism is something that should not only be celebrated, but worshipped at this point.
Celebrity radio host Charlemagne the God defended a Christian girls basketball team. They refused to play against a biological male athlete on an opposing team. The school, the Christian school, was banned from participating in all sports as a result. Listen.
That person was probably out there averaging 30 and 20 against them women, man.
Remember that swimmer that he was a man and then he transitioned to a woman, and when he was swimming as a man, he was like number 80th.
Yes.
And then when he transitioned to a woman,
he was like number one or something. That's what my point. Whoever they was playing against, I got to see the stats. If this person is averaging 55 points,
50, 40,
17 rebounds, 22 blocks, I'm not playing against them either. That's not fair.
Well, not only is it not fair, it's downright dangerous. Imagine a biological woman being body checked by a biological male on the court. Somebody's going to get hurt.
I mean, this is ridiculous on two levels. One, can you imagine going back in a space time machine rather, and trying to convince someone 10, 15 years ago that we were cheering on men competing in women's any kind of athletic event? It's absolutely absurd. But even setting aside the danger aspect, it's not fair because men are taking away women's positions that they have worked for their entire lives. They're usually mediocre men who couldn't be successful in their own men's sport. And so they're changing over. It's always men to women. There aren't women athletes going into men's competitions. This is all about mediocre men trying to take over women's spots in sports. And it's horrendous that it's happening, but it's horrendous that people are celebrating it. And it's just really another element of this religiosity that we're seeing, that people are so deep in this cult of transgenderism that they're seeing women being physically destroyed and all they're doing is applauding. It's just awful to watch.
It is terrible. And you know, according to the Democrats, the best woman for the job is a man. That's their new slogan, you know, the party of women. You know, after 6 seasons, Netflix is quietly canceling a children's cartoon featuring a bison who came out as non-binary. Take a look.
Well, my heart says that the way I feel most myself is to go by the name Fred. That's because I'm non-binary, and Fred is the name that fits me best. And I also use they and them, because calling me a she or a he doesn't feel right to me.
Wow. Now, this show's been canceled, but it's still going to be on Netflix, available for kids to watch. Why do you think the left is targeting our children this way?
Well, they've always targeted children. If you think about any kind of propaganda movement, children are the easiest to go after. I think, one, there's a power element, but also it's much easier to convince people of an ideology if they grew up believing it to be true. Once you've got people growing up as children from the age of 3 years old, some people are so-called transitioning their children. If you've known something for decades, it's going to be very, very hard to actually tell them the truth. You've got a lot of adults now who've grown up with the obvious notion that biological sex is real and that men and women are different. But if you have children growing up in these environments with, as that teacher showed, bragging about the confusion they're causing, is it any surprise that in 10, 15 years' time, they all believe this nonsense? That's the true goal. If you look at really any radical left-wing movement, they all focus on propaganda from a very young age. It's a generational game, and we need to be aware of that moving forward.
That's what it is, propaganda. Ian Haworth, great work, and thanks for the visit, man. I appreciate it.